Undoubtedly, you will have heard of the murder of the Red Comyn that happened here in Dumfries on the 10th of February 1306. It's an event that is as much a part of our history here in Scotland as Mary's flight to the Solway or Alexander III's disastrous ride to Kinghorn. It was a moment of great change in Scottish history. Why did the Bruce kill the Red Comyn? A lot of people might say it was to rid himself of another potential rival to the throne, but the Comyn was already conspiring with Edward of England to eradicate the Bruces for his own ends. Let's back up a little bit here though, because the Comyns had never been friends to the Bruces. When John Balliol became king after the death of Alexander III, the Bruces had also made a claim for the throne. Bruce's father and grandfather had resigned their earldoms in order to help press the claim, an act which made Robert the Earl of Carrick, but left the Bruces without much of their lands in Scotland. They became based in Carlisle, which saw one of the earliest forays in the Wars of Independence. John Comyn led an attack on the castle after John Balliol had refused, under pressure from the aristocracy of Scotland, to send troops to France to help in Edward's long-standing war against the French. This was the same John Comyn who had seized Annandale and Carrick from the Bruces after their unsuccessful attempt to claim the throne. Then, Robert found himself a persona non grata in England and was forced to flee. As he fled north, he intercepted a messenger from Comyn to Edward and discovered, after beheading the messenger, the plot between the Comyn and Edward to destroy the Bruces. To him, in spite of the differences that had stood between them before, this was a new low of treachery from the Red Comyn against Robert and his family. Which brings us back to that fatal meeting here on the 10th of February. Both the Bruce and the Comyn arrived with a few men in tow, meeting outside of the old church that stood where the newer Greyfriars Church stands now. Going together into the church to discuss Robert's proposal to drive the English out of Scotland to their mutual benefit, they spoke for some time, growing more heated as the discussion lengthened. Comyn is supposed to have exclaimed, "You lie," to something Robert said, but there was no witnesses inside the church. Robert lost his temper, drew his dagger and stabbed the Comyn. The Comyn fell against the altar. Now the other men got involved. Comyn's uncle, Sir Robert, drew his sword and tried to attack the Bruce, but the blow merely glanced off the chainmail vest the future king was wearing under his shirt. In retaliation, Sir Christopher Seaton split Sir Robert's skull in two with his sword, an act that would see Seaton hung, drawn and quartered later by Edward right here in Dumfries. The Bruce staggered out of the church and sat down, muttering, "I think I've killed Comyn." To which one of his followers, Sir Roger Kirkpatrick, replied, "What do you mean think? I'll make sicker." He and David Lindsay dashed back into the church where Comyn, apparently still very much alive, was calling for a surgeon from the church friars. A fight ensued in the Vennel between Comyn's men and Robert's, but the Comyn's men did not fight long, not with him lying dead in the kirk. We talk about this murder a great deal. It's part of the cloak and dagger swashbuckling mythology that has grown up around Robert the Bruce, but we mustn't forget what a massive setback this was for both Robert's and Scotland's freedom. Facing excommunication and probably death, Robert was forced into hiding and therefore forced to fight a guerrilla campaign against the occupying English. Scotland's recognition by the Pope as an independent nation was dealt a devastating blow by the murder. The Pope's approval of a nation's sovereignty was as important then as the UN's is now, and it took many more years for that approval to be regained.